for everything Michigan loses on offense coming into this year, you still have what PFF is considering the best tight end in the country. Yeah, as long as he stays, right? And that goes for everybody. I mean, everyone's on your roster, I guess, until they're not. But to have a talent like that at tight end, somebody who is, more of a pass catcher than, traditional tight end, but that's kind of what you need this year, especially since you're going to have a new starting quarterback. But yeah, PFF, Max Chadwick, their analyst saying he's nearly unguardable. And we've seen that, on several occasions. And that's, whether it's just a, typical route or a broken play. I mean, the Indiana touchdown that he had where, JJ finds him. I mean, this guy and the huge catch to go up and get it and then run after the catch in the national championship game against Washington. I mean, so many plays stick out, but he's kind of your headliner along with Donovan Edwards on offense this year.
Megan, can you go back to the previous picture with him dragging the Washington players? I want a statue or something of that. They should give the Mackey Award winner, that one right there. They should give the Mackey Award winner that trophy, right? And how clean are the Blues right there? That's insane. It's weird. You know what? I was going back and there were a couple plays, a couple drop balls by him that I had forgotten. The Iowa game, there was one. I think there was one in the Rose Bowl. It was a championship game where he had two hands on the ball. It's just so rare to see him drop a ball that I'm thinking, man, I didn't remember it. But they got to get him back. And this is going to be a big spring for several reasons. I wrote this yesterday in the 3-2-1 column. Everybody thinks, wow, you're out of the woods if you get through this 30-day period after the portal opening after Jim Harbaugh has left for Los Angeles. And that's just not the case. They got the spring to worry about too. So they got to get these guys taken care of. But man, this dude, what a find. How many guys from Idaho can you name that ever played football at such a high level? And no disrespect to the state of Idaho rather, but he is really the best I know and pretty special kid too, man. So not a man of many words. It's funny. I remember trying to fill out a Q&A with him in the magazine. It had to be 500 words. I got to about 175. And I said, well, we're going to have to switch gears here. But I kind of like guys like that too, man. He just does his business and doesn't do a whole lot of talking.
Humble. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing I like about him too is that, obviously NIL is I'm not even going to enter, like we can do discussions about guys that have decisions to make, if they make a decision that goes the other way. But, when you just look at his fit at Michigan, especially as it pertains to the roster next year, I mean, he is arguably the focal point of your offense. He can play in line. He can, can flex out and play wide receiver, needs to improve as a blocker. And that's, when you go back and watch that Iowa game, not one of his better games in terms of, blocking and some of the, just how he performed in general. But Colston Loveland to me, I mean, again, and this is where it goes back to, losing some of the assistant coaches that they've lost, like a Jay Harbaugh. Just think of all the guys that he's found. He went out and pulled Colston Loveland out of Iowa. He went and found Hassan Haskins out of, the Missouri, and Ronnie Bell out of Missouri. And, he had a knack for finding those guys in those under-recruited, not historically talent-rich areas and made them foundational players. So when you look at where Michigan, where things line up for them moving forward, they're going to miss those type of evaluations. And you hope that certainly as a operation, you can find a way to replicate some of that. But, Colston Loveland to me, yeah, you do need to find a way to take care of him. I'm sure that, Oregon or Texas, or it seems like it's the same four schools, right, that keep adding all these guys and poaching guys from the portal. And quite frankly, calling guys before they even are available. But when it comes to Colston Loveland, I mean, he is as important to that offense next year as Will Johnson would be to the defense, or Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant. He's one of those foundational guys, and I'm looking forward to see how he performs, because really, I don't think we've seen him play his best football yet. Still needs to probably put a little bit of weight on. Needs to improve as a blocker, but as a mismatch guy, as someone that can attract extra attention from defenders. I mean, for all the talk about what they lose in the passing game with a Roman Wilson, with Cornelius Johnson, I mean, Loveland is going to be that focal point, and I'm excited to see what they do with him, because I think they can do more with him.
And he drew the Brock Bowers comparison from Nick Saban ahead of the Rose Bowl as, kind of a mismatch type of guy. And Look, when you look at this roster, of course, everybody has to stay for this to be potentially true. And we'll talk about Will Johnson here in just 1 second. But think of, you have the top returning tight end in the country. How many other position groups does Michigan have the top player at?
Well, maybe defensive tackle, right? Maybe corner. That's the thing. You know, it's funny. Everybody's like, oh, they lose so much. And one of my buddies said, you know what? LSU went 5-5 the year after they won the Natty, and I get it. And it's really going to come down to quarterback too, right? So that's going to be the biggest position. But, you know, Donovan Edwards, I wouldn't call him number one, but he's, you know what, when he's on, he's on. He's really, really good, and you can use him in different ways. So, yeah, there are several. And when you've got that many guys, and you've got guys like Ernest Hausman, who's played a lot of football, right? You've got guys like Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart, hopefully. You've got guys like Rod Moore, who I think is going to be one of the top safeties in the country. You've got Makari Page. We went right down the list. Now it's going to be about developing depth. And that's what made this team 144 so special. So, but you're right, Clay. And there's still a lot of talent here. So hopefully they can keep their guys. Hopefully they can add a few from the portal. And then your guys, I'm telling you, you're talking about at least competing in the Big Ten here, even with that tough schedule. You know, I can't wait for that Texas game. I can't believe I'm already counting the months, man. I usually don't wish away my summers, but damn, fellas, if they keep everybody, I can't wait for football season.
Yeah,
all that.
Totally agree. A little birdie tells me that, you know, these lists keep coming out from PFF. Michigan is going to have multiple more of the number one player at their position group. And I don't even think Rod Moore is going to be one of them. And I think he could be in contention there. I think you could have two of the top 3 or 4 defensive tackles, including the top guy. So, yeah, depth is important. Quarterback's important. You know, like tight end's not the one position that you would, if you could choose a position on offense to have the top player at in the country, you wouldn't choose tight end. You would choose quarterback. But still, you have a lot of individual elite talent. Still a lot of guys like the Josiah Stewarts, you know, that weren't even starters last year that are going to step up. Ernest Hausman, you know, you bring in some transfers as well. The, you know, the two they got, Preeb on offense and then Barham on defense, I think are pretty underrated, especially given the timing of when they committed during Michigan CFP run, where kind of got overlooked. You know, I mean, Chris, you and I were in Los Angeles already, and Anthony, you were traveling that day, and we wake up because the time zones are different. We're like, who is this Josh Preeb guy they got? And then you look more into it. You're like, man, that's a hell of a pickup. But all right, let's worry about this game that they're about to play. But then you circle back to it, and it was a big pickup. So there's still a lot of talent on the roster.